Hi, I'm Linda Marston. Welcome to this session on tarot navigating through life. I'm going to show you how to do tarot readings for yourself, which will help you move quickly and easily through life, avoiding one-way streets and roadblocks. So what's my background? Well, I'm a professional tarot reader and teacher. I'm a former president of the Tarot Guild of Australia, and Australia is where I live. And I'm also the founder of Global Spiritual Studies, where there are a whole range of tarot classes and others on Kabbalah. So that's who I am. And over there on the right, you can see the cover of my book, Ticket, Passport and Tarot Cards, which was published in 2006. And Tarot Nav, a GPS for Life, is a revision and an expansion of the book and the TV series that went to air in Australia on community television, where I had 22 5-minute segments, one on each card in the major arcana. And as those of you who have either seen this book or seen some of the videos, I link tarot and travel, because after all, traveling through the tarot is it's the fool's journey, so it makes absolute sense to use the metaphor of travel and all the places that I've visited in the world and the experiences I've had, to use travel as a metaphor for exploring the major arcana and exploring the tarot in general, but in particular the major arcana, often, as we know, called the fool's journey. But Tarot Nav, I call it a GPS for life. So how is tarot a GPS? GPS, Global Positioning System. And that means that it receives a signal from a satellite to show your exact location on a map. You key in a destination and it takes you there. That's if you're lucky. If you make a wrong turn, it recalculates and puts you back on track. Now, the tarot, for me, the tarot is a way of channeling a message from your higher self. And your higher self is that inner wisdom that you have, which is sometimes a wee bit smarter than our ordinary everyday self. And our higher self is like the signal from the satellite. It knows where you are in relation to issues in your life. It uses the images on the cards you draw in a reading to channel directions. It also alerts you to potential roadblocks or difficulties you might encounter as you navigate a situation in your life. A GPS requires an address so it can take you to your destination. Your higher self, when you're doing a tarot reading, needs you to ask clear questions so a clear answer can be channeled through the cards. So what sort of questions put you in the driver's seat? Not this one, not these questions. Definitely avoid questions that simply invite a yes or a no answer, otherwise known as a closed question. Avoid closed questions, because that gives people the sense of that there's only one fixed future. Instead, you need to be asking questions that empower, along the lines of what can I do to, and then whatever it is. What's the best course of action? What factors should I consider? And so on. So it's very important to phrase the questions for your tarot GPS in a way that puts you in the driver's seat. And later in the class, we'll be actually doing formulating questions on the spot and doing a reading accordingly. The other thing to do is to avoid questions where major factors beyond your control are involved. If you do tarot readings in a market, as I do, or online or on Skype or whatever, you'll know that people sometimes come with questions, for example, about buying or selling property. I seem to have a spate of those about a year ago, and they made me very aware of the dangers of that sort of question. Because what I do when people come with that sort of question. I'll just get onto it in a minute, but I explained that a tarot reading can guide them on how to prepare a property for sale or the best sort of assistance to seek, but a tarot reading cannot make property prices go up or down to suit their needs. And let's face it, if people are coming asking about property, either buying or selling, that's so often what they really want to know. They want to know that, will I sell or buy a property at the price I want? So I discourage that. Interestingly, there were a couple came to me at the market last year, and it'd be 6 or 7 months ago now, or even longer. And they were desperate to sell their business, and they kept coming back to me. And the cards, I think after the second time, I said, look, you really shouldn't come back and ask me again, because the similar cards are coming out. And of course, the cards weren't ones that they really wanted, because they were cards saying stuff like, well, you're going to have people coming along offering you, a sort of offering you a price which is lower than you want. I can't remember the cards, but I would imagine that it was the Five of Pentacles or something like that. Or I think on one occasion it was like there was a Page of Cups was going to come along, and I thought, well, Page of Cups is not going to know much about buying a business, and will probably be up in la la land about what sort of price they want to spend or pay. So they did stop coming and asking me. They'd still call by the sort of stall and just sort of say, no, we haven't sold it yet, or whatever, But interestingly, only a couple of days ago, they rang me. And they came around for a tarot reading the other day, and they said, everything you said was true. And I went, what do you mean? What happened? And they said, well, would you believe you said something like it's likely to be resolved in a surprising way, something that comes from left field. And I thought, I know, there must have been the Seven of Swords, because that's the way I often read the Seven of Swords. And I said, oh, so what happened? They said, well, actually, we didn't sell it, but what we've got is a buyer, and we've vendor leased the business so that they're paying us a fixed amount every month over a 5-year period. And so that was I just said, I'm going to put that down as an example of the Seven of Swords playing out. So it's very interesting to I reckon just avoid those questions where there are major factors beyond your control. Health is another one. Again, a tarot reading can help with advice to someone on how to deal with their symptoms or how to deal with a medical condition, but it can't fix the problem. With health, what I do is I get the person to, we actually do a general reading, like, tell me what I need to know about my life in the next 6 months or year, whatever time frame they want. And I personally never go beyond a year for a time frame. And what I say to them is, well, look, if something's health factor, a sort of health issue is going to come up, it will come up in answer to that question, because it's, what do I need to know about the next year? And if you're going to have a major health issue, you will need to know about it. And that sort of helps them get over that anxiety, and then it frees them up to enjoy a reading or experience a reading that is broader than just that simple medical question. Okay, so but let's return to using your tarot GPS in situations where you can be in the driver's seat. As you consider the answers to your questions, don't forget that you're human. You have free will. Unfortunately, this means that faced with directions you don't like, You might procrastinate or take a route that leads up hills, down dales, and round in circles. I think we can all think of experiences where we've done that. So the trick is to be open to the message coming from the cards. You mightn't like the message, but that could be because your inclination is to go in the wrong direction. The choice is yours. I love this image from the Druidcraft Tarot. It carries the same, excuse me, it carries the same sort of image message as the Rider-Waite one, but it just has this beautiful rural scene with the two paths going around that ancient tree. So when you're at a crossroads, at some point you do have to make a choice, and you have a choice to follow the directions from your tarot GPS, that is from your own higher self, or you have the choice not to follow those directions. Which deck? Some people watching this recording may be completely new to tarot, and I wouldn't blame you for being confused by the many tarot decks on the market. In this, in Tarot Nav, in both the ebook and in the videos, I used a Rider-Waite deck, which was first published in 1910 by Rider and Company in the UK. Arthur Edward Waite, a member of an occult society of the time called the Golden Dawn, designed the deck along with the artist Pamela Colman Smith. Now, I use this deck because the symbolism in the images says so much about the human experience. The Rider-Waite deck has endured the test of time and over the years has become the model for many other decks, including, for example, that Druidcraft Tarot that we saw before. However, your tarot GPS will work with any deck. It doesn't matter which deck. But it's important to use one that speaks to you, that the images seem to channel you a message. So use one you already have, or if you're completely new to tarot, go out and invest in your very first deck. So Tarot Nav, a GPS for life, and there it is. It's pretty. Many people have already bought this version of it, where it sits on a USB flash drive, and you receive it in the mail. But others have opted to download all the files. So the Tarot Nav, it's a package of materials, right, to help you read tarot for yourself and to help you navigate your way through life. And I do it because the videos and the ebook show you how I've used tarot to navigate through life. And quite frankly, it took me far too long to cotton onto the magic of the tarot and how it can be used like a GPS. I have a bit of an excuse here because since I'm actually just turned 70 as I'm making this recording, GPS was not a concept in my early years of getting around with tarot. And in fact, it's really a reasonably recent phenomenon in terms of ordinary people in their everyday life, driving life using a GPS. And so I've got a little bit of an excuse for not realising its potential as a GPS. So Tarot Nav pulls all my experiences together into this set of resources that will get you using your tarot GPS much more quickly and efficiently than I did. It was interesting when I was revising the videos, when I looked back into the book at the readings that I'd done back in 2006, or actually going back further than that, but it was all documented in 2006. I look at those readings and I think, I wish I'd gone back over the years and looked back at the readings to see what the directions were, because you do just wander off on your own unless you're a bit disciplined about looking back at your readings and seeing how they played out. And I really became aware of it because as I was revising the book and incorporating a look at all readings that I've done previously into the videos, I suddenly realised that how many more times was I going to be faced with the 4 of cups? When was I ever going to look up from the 3 cups on the ground and pick up the one that was straight in front of my face? And how often was I going to get the 3 of swords, and so on? There were just all these cards that kept repeating over and over again, all around questions around the same issue. And I thought, gosh, I'm a slow learner. Anyway, that's so what I'm hoping now is that that sort of experience, I can short circuit it all for you. Now, what else do I want to say about this? Yes, I called my tarot course Live and Learn the Tarot because once you start seeing how everything you do can be seen through a tarot lens, you quickly realise just how powerful tarot is as a tool for self-empowerment and self-reflection. So in a nutshell, Tarot Nav gives you resources and a framework. That's the important thing. A framework for doing tarot readings for yourself. Tarot readings that focus on giving you directions for navigating through your life. So in summary, the videos. There are videos on all 22 major arcana cards, and those videos explore the energies of the major arcana cards through stories from my travels, which show how the energies of those cards played out in real life situations. And as I just mentioned before, they track readings I've done for myself over the years to gauge the accuracy of directions from my Tarot Nav GPS. The ebook is a revision of the Ticket, Passport and Tarot card meanings. I didn't make many changes to the meanings that I had in Ticket, Passport and Tarot cards, and I know from feedback over the years that people quite like my fairly short, pithy explanations of the cards, because it's great to have a lot of detail, but sometimes you just need something that gives you a quick overview of the card, and you can go exploring in other resources, but to have a simple set of meanings is very useful. So you get the meanings of all the major arcana cards and a synopsis of each major arcana video, and you get the meanings of all the minor arcana cards. And many of those minor arcana cards, of course, feature in the readings that you see on the major arcana videos. And to keep the GPS metaphor going, you get navigation tools or roadmaps. And by that, I mean layouts and guides to navigating your way through anything that life throws at you. So a range of spreads. And most importantly, given that point I made before about how it would have been really good to look back on my own readings, I might have got through some situations a bit more quickly than I did. I've got a workbook or journal for you to keep track of the questions you ask, the readings you do, and the action, this is the important thing, the action you take as a result. I've also got that as a free download from the Tarot Nav page on the website, but it's in the package if you've bought it. Now, the ebook, what I've got there is when you buy the Tarot Nav on the USB flash drive, this is the first file that you open because it actually gives you an overview of everything in the package of resources. So it gives you a summary of all the videos, and these are all links. So you're simply linking. You simply click on that, and you'll see the video on the Fool and so on. To me, it's the glue. It's only 50 pages, and I highly recommend that you actually print it out. I mean, I've just put it in a folder here, which when I'm down at the market or showing people, I just show them. But once you've got it printed out, as I say, only 50 pages, print it out, and then you've got this very quick guide as you're doing readings. I've just shown you what it looks like when you put it in a folder, but here are a couple of pages from it, so that you've got the major arcana videos, the major arcana cards and their meanings, and those key questions that you can ask of yourself when you get any of the major arcana cards. Now, those key questions are the ones that in a moment we'll be talking about personality and soul cards, and I provide this as a guide for you to consider your personality and soul cards, to look at these questions. Not all of them will be relevant, but usually something resonates when you read through those questions. And so each major arcana card has its meaning, if you like, which is pretty well always based on the script that's in the video. Then you've got the key questions, and then you've got the synopsis of the video. So that's how the ebook works. And so it's got all the meanings of the pip cards, the minor arcana, and then there are these tarot roadmaps with defined positions. Whatever your question is, you need to work out which layout is appropriate. But now I want to talk about personality and soul cards, and bring in a couple of people who are in the room to talk about their experience of working out the personality and soul cards, whether it was the first time they've done this or whether they've done it before. The example I use in the book is it's based on my own birth date, and my personality card is the Fool, and my soul card is the Emperor. It's important to consider your personality and soul cards, because I see this as your overarching tarot GPS. And because I happen to have a personality card of the Fool, means that the Fool video is all about personality and soul cards. And the guide that you all received as part of the package with this free class gives you the way to calculate your personality and soul cards. And the personality card, as I see it, are the lessons or challenges you face as you come to terms with your true purpose, your soul card. Now, many people have the same personality and soul card, because when they do that calculation before, their number doesn't reduce to, mine reduced to 22. But say when you do the calculation of day, month and year, it comes to 9. You don't need to reduce it to find your soul card. You're actually a double, whatever it is, whatever the card is. So before I ask people in the room to talk about how they found the whole process of personality and soul cards, how did my Fool and Emperor energy manifest over the years? I'm able to talk about this because I have just turned 70, so I've got a lot of years, I've got a lot of decades to look back on, and a lot of experiences to look back on. And to me, this Fool Emperor energy is a difficult one, because the Fool, the energy of the Fool is carefree. It's take a leap of faith, jump over that cliff, don't even think about, no baggage from the past, just trust your instincts, trust that the universe is going to support you. The Emperor, for heaven's sake, solid, sitting on a throne, ruling an empire, so different. So how have I brought this all together? The short answer to that is it took a long time before I felt comfortable with the Emperor. And I think that people who've got a different soul, like me, have a separate personality and soul cards. I think you might experience the same thing, or maybe not, but for me, I didn't feel comfortable with the Emperor. I always saw his shadow side, the harsh dictator who rules his kingdom with an iron fist. I felt so much more comfortable with the Fool who leaps off cliffs without a care in the world. And of course, I've done so much travel in my life that it just makes so much sense. Sometimes, of course, I've been the fool reversed, weighed down with baggage from the past. I'm sure we can all think of examples in our life where we've been weighed down by baggage from the past. As the decades rolled by, I came to appreciate the need for structure in my life. Ho-hum, need for structure. For many, many, many years, 25 years, I worked as an education and training consultant. I was extremely well organised and had a very disciplined approach to work. You can't work as a freelancer unless you are disciplined and organised. So this was a perfect example of a compartment in my life. Work was my emperor compartment. That was it. You know, the rest of my life just seemed to be the fool. But I did have the emperor operating all the time. I just didn't quite like it. As I said before, travel's played a major role in my life since 1996. The stories of those travels provided the basis for my book and TV series, Ticket, Passport and Tarot Cards, and now for the Tarot Nav Major Arcana videos. So I've taken many leaps of faith, packed my bag many times and set out in search of adventure. Just in the last couple of years, in fact, just in the last 12 to 18 months, I can see that I've finally combined the energies of the Fool and the Emperor. I've created a structure for my life which allows me to live comfortably in rented accommodation in Australia. And the rented means that I have no assets, I have no property assets. So I live in rented accommodation in Australia, and that gives me a pool of disposable income with which to travel. And the eclectic range of skills in my Fool's satchel equips me well to help organise tours to ancient sacred sites in the UK and Ireland. So that's how I've managed to combine my personality and soul cards. Or how they've worked out in my life. So definitely there were many lessons and challenges for me, but I now feel reasonably comfortable with the Emperor, but it's because I've somehow or other come up with a structure, a sort of Emperor-like structure that suits what I want to do. It's a pity that it took me so long, but on the other hand, it was obviously meant to take that long. Jackie, your personality and soul cards, did you have the same personality and soul card, or did you have different ones?
Yeah, I've got the same. It's the Lovers.
The
Six.
Lovers.
Yeah.
You're saying that with a sort of like, yep, it's the Lovers.
Uh-huh.
Do any of those questions with the Lovers make sense in terms of the way you've experienced your life to this point?
I think so. A lot of my life has been about the choices I've made, and the difference between good and bad choices, and actually more living with the ramifications of those choices.
Yeah.
And I've learned now, when I look back, to accept the choices I've made. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I like to get things completely right. And at the time, sometimes it means that I'm not really quite happy with myself when I've made these choices immediately after the choice has been made. But when you look back in hindsight, you actually think, well, actually, yes, that was a choice. And you have to go through that.
It's interesting when the Lovers come out, because immediately people think, oh, this is all about falling in love. Well, it certainly can be about falling in love or making decisions about lovers, but it is that wider thing of making choices that are in your best interests, and probably when it's your personality and soul card, it's probably quite a major focus in the way you approach life. Karen.
Yes, I've got both the same as well, the Hermit.
Wonderful card. I love the Hermit.
Well, I feel I probably grew with the years into the Hermit, because I feel I'm always in inverted commas, on a quest, always looking at the bigger things and Obviously, when I was much younger, it was a thing I didn't necessarily understand, and it was not always easy to combine that with daily life and, you know, interaction with peers and stuff like that. And I think I've now found a nice balance where I've got room to be the hermit. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm going to bring in the tree of life here, because anyone who's done anything with me knows that I like to overlay the Kabbalah on the tarot, and the hermit sits on the path that goes from Tiferet in the center of the tree. That is the sphere that's all about who we are and how we define ourselves and how we're seen in the world, and, you know, the essence of us, as it were. And it heads up to one of the side sephirot on the tree. So, and it's called the path of the way shower, and it's interesting because you can either be the way shower, or in your life, maybe what's happened is that because you've been still, I'm talking about just, you know, mentally still, you look around and you see someone who's going to help you. And that person will never be jumping up and down shouting, going, "Oh, I've got the way, I know exactly." It's always someone who's quiet. So I don't know, have you experienced just finding people like that in your life who've been able to mentor you or guide you in some way?
Oh, absolutely, especially in the last few years. And as you say, indeed, in a very quiet way, a quiet person, but that's given me the space to do that, actually. Yes, interesting
Yeah.
you should do that.
Yes, it's interesting that I should say that. In fact, I mean, I know you're sitting in the UK and I'm sitting in Australia, but I've got goosebumps as you said that. And I wasn't going to mention anything like that, but I thought, no, I want to say that about the way shower. You can also, as well as working out your personality and soul cards, you can work out what path you're on the tree of life based on your date of birth. And you can also work out based on your name at birth, the one that appears on your birth certificate. You can work out the path that you walked in a previous lifetime. And the lessons you learned on that path in a previous lifetime will help you in this lifetime. One of the cards that I always liked in the tarot, I didn't like the Emperor, but I loved the Hermit. And then, it's 10 years now since I studied the Kabbalah with Evelyn Joffe in Melbourne. And I was stunned when I saw that the path I'd walked in a previous lifetime, the Hermit sits on it. And I thought, yep, that's why I like the Hermit, because even though I run around on the Fool and everything else, there's part of me which knows that you've got to be the Hermit, and that's helping me in this lifetime. I've probably whetted all your appetites for knowing how you do all of that as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm scribbling furiously away now.
And Shalika, you've probably done this exercise with me 10 years ago.
Yes, I did. And I must admit, I thought, I have done this. But I must admit, I was a little bit stumped to start with, because mine came to 25, which makes it 7. And I thought, oh, my goodness, I've got 7. I can't do anything else with 7. 7, 7. And luckily I went back and read that you can be the same thing in both your soul and personality. And I thought, oh, thanks heavens, because I was having a major meltdown. I thought, I'm pretty good at maths. And I thought, oh dear, this doesn't sound right. But anyway, so for me, well, obviously 7 is the Chariot.
Yes.
And that's actually really interesting, because I've only actually been on my own for a couple of years, and most of my life has been taken up with caring about other people and thinking about them. So the last 2 particularly, where you have the confidence to carve out a role and identity for yourself and to take control of your own destiny, is definitely the path I'm on now. But a little bit like you, it's taken me 60 years before I've set out on that journey. So yeah, it did resonate with me very much when I read that.
Yes, the Chariot. I'll bring in the Kabbalah again, because the path that the Chariot sits on, there are 5 different paths that all have a similar sort of focus to them, because they're all going across what is an abyss up towards the light, towards the divine at the top of the tree. There are 5 paths that go across this abyss, and they all have bridges. And they start off on this side of the tree, which is where the Chariot is, and the Chariot has the strongest, biggest, safest bridge. The 5th one is like Harrison Ford and his swing bridge across the bloody canyon, right? With, lots of holes in it and likely to fall. And she said people who are on the path of the Chariot with the really strong bridge, and you're an Australian, and even the people not in Australia will recognise the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Very, very secure bridge. If you're thinking of walking, don't think about driving on it. On this path, they learn that if all they have to do is just slowly, one step after the other, just put one foot in front of the other, and they just keep walking, and they'll get across the bridge. So does that, and that's that sense of the Chariot. You will just be able to chart your path. You will be able to move forward. So does that sense of one foot in front of the other through life, does that resonate with you?
Yes, it does actually, Linda, because I have to be quite honest. The challenging bit is definitely been there, and a lot of the time it is just been a matter of putting one foot after the other and just basically, gritting my teeth and, just keeping on. I tell people I'm a bit like birds of paint, I keep on keeping on.
Yes.
Now, Pamela, before the class started, when I asked about the personality and soul cards, you said it was mind-blowing for you. So how is it mind-blowing?
My personality card was 21, the world, and my soul card is number 3, the Empress. And I know that in the Druidcraft Tarot deck, that there is that the Empress is the counterpart of the world. And I was looking at the challenges, and I was looking at most of the questions, and I was thinking, I think that there's something that I need to look at between the two of them as pertains to the Wheel of Shagash and taking it further without losing the whole nurturing side of the community that I love here, the Druid community, and how can I make that all work without becoming a tyrant, really? A bit like your emperor, and sort of starting to interfere with the way other people want to run the Grove. Ash is my baby now. That's the one I want to nurture. That's where I want to take it to the world, of course.
Hello, Bonnie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Well, my personality and soul cards are Moon and Hermit. And it's interesting to me because when I work with birth cards, it comes out I work with a dual birth card system, and it comes out to the same thing. I like the way that you wrote your questions, because the question that each person can ask themselves. I'm looking at the questions that you have here for the Moon. I'm a person who has paid attention, has remembered my dreams all my life. I've paid attention to dreams all my life. I like what you're saying here about just dreams, because it's been just the last few years that the really disturbing dreams have come to me, but they're also the ones that are bringing me some core answers to my life, trigger my understanding of myself and where things are coming from, and bringing me to resolution on some things. I also like what you've written here, and I'm trying to find it. Okay, what you've written for the Hermit because I'm a very introverted person. One of your questions is, am I afraid of being alone? And I think for anybody who has the Hermit card, that is a question that they should ask themselves. My answer to that, just speaking, solely for myself, is why on earth would I not want to be alone? You're doing very good here. I'm pleased with the whole system anyway. I mean, the videos, the presentation, the very nice little carrying case that it comes in. But the questions to me are really what I think is going to be extremely beneficial to people.
Cheryl, what are your cards?
My personality card is the Star, and my soul card is Strength.
Ah, right.
And I find it, very interesting as I, look at what the Star card implies. And I find that, throughout my life, I've really had a strong sense of faith, a strong sense of hope. There are times, of course, where, things can get difficult, but I try to balance and try to look at, what is going on. I use a lot of meditation. I also, interestingly, as I was looking at the card with the 7 stars representing the 7 chakras, and I do a lot with Reiki and with spiritual healing. So the card, I think, is really, significant to me in a lot of ways. And there are times where, I've been, in an emotional crisis, but I've never given up hope. And I think that's the significance of that star.
Yes, and of course, with your soul card being Strength, you also know that you've got this huge well of inner strength to draw on in those sorts of situations.
And I have found that throughout my life, when there have been difficult times, I've had to pull on that inner strength.
Yeah.
But also I find that the inner strength, it's also a very spiritual strength, which relates to the star.
Being that I have the Chariot, its emphasis is that in situations when I'm maybe not quite sure, I want to do something, but I'm not quite sure about it, so I may be on the fence, or I may not be willing yet to step out into the water, that it's really important for me to be able to just sit with what I want to do and to bring it into my heart and bring it into who I am, and not let that control my fears. In other words, to step out. And I have to say that through my entire life, if I wanted to do something and I've been afraid to do it, that if I just sit long enough, or I watch long enough, or I pay attention to other people around me that may be doing the same thing, that if I get a feel for what is out there and what the outcomes could be, that I can then move into it and be victorious with my challenges.
That's a perfect way of living the Chariot in your life. And it's also because your personality and soul cards are the same, you're sort of truly focused on that.
So thank you for those contributions about the personality and soul cards. 3-card readings are one of my favourite ways of getting a fix on situations. As always, you have to ask a clear question of the kind that I talked about earlier on in the presentation. But what I do with 3 cards is I interpret them in a very free-flowing way. That is, I simply link the cards in a way that makes sense in the context of the question. First of all, an example of the sort of questions that I regularly do this, by the way, and I'm now studiously keeping notes in my journal, in my own workbook. That's the emperor structure of my life coming into play here. I'm not just a fool. I'm going to be structured about this GPS, this tarot GPS, because I'm asking everyone else to do it, so I must do it as well. So what I do is it's questions like, what's the significance of something or other that's just happened or is about to happen or whatever? What's the best course of action? And this is one that I've used quite often in recent years. How should I approach a conversation or a meeting with someone? Naturally, I'm only asking this sort of question if I think it's going to be problematic. I'm not, if I'm just going out to have fun with someone, I'm not necessarily going to be asking how I should approach having fun for the night. But if I know that I'm going to come up with a conversation or a meeting where I know that it's a bit tricky, I will get myself into the right frame of mind, that is calm down, have a drink of water, sort of breathe deeply, etc. And then have the cards, shuffle them, fan them out and say, how should I approach my conversation or my meeting with so-and-so about such and such? I've come up with a hypothetical, just as an example, and this is in the ebook. And this would be the sort of question that, someone going for a performance review at work might go, what's the best approach for me to take in my performance review meeting next week? When I was coming up with this hypothetical, I sort of imagined myself in that position and sort of put myself in that frame of mind, and out came these 3 cards. Now, my process for interpreting 3 cards, it's not looking at card 1, then card 2, then card 3. First of all, I do an overall feel from the images. Is it positive, happy, what is it? Colourful? And on this occasion, I don't think anyone would disagree that these are very colourful cards and they look positive. I mean, you've got the 3 of Cups, people celebrating. The Lovers might be a major arcana card, but it's colourful and bright. You've got the King of Swords sitting in the middle there. That's okay. He's not negative, he's just sitting there. And given the fact that this is about a performance review meeting, I mean, I immediately thought, well, that's the boss. That's the person who's doing the performance review. So the way I would quickly interpret that would be along the lines of, I know my boss is fair-minded and will make decisions based on logic and reason. That's the King of Swords. So I can confidently talk about how much I enjoy working in the team, 3 of Cups, and how my decision to apply for this position or for the review, performance review, was absolutely the right one for me. And I think you could be cheeky enough to go, and I believe the department's going to benefit as well. That's a really good choice that my performance is being reviewed and I'm possibly going to get a raise or, get some more responsibility. So that's how I do it. It's not about looking at one card and then the next card and so on. It's sort of seeing what the story is. Any major arcana cards I'm going to look at quite closely since they carry more weight than the minor arcana cards. Now the Lovers, I'm just going to do a visual thing with the Lovers. The man and woman are naked. That is, they're not hiding anything. In other words, you could say that one of the ways to talk about yourself in the performance review is to say, I'm transparent. What you see is what you get. Something like that. So that I'm not going to be hiding anything when I'm making decisions or making suggestions or whatever. And as always, you can just select a card to clarify any card that you find confusing or that you'd like to know more about. Let's go again to bringing you in now. Jackie, at the beginning, was it Jackie or Karen who wanted to talk about changing jobs? I can't remember now which.
That was me, Karen.
Karen. Oh, okay, yep. Karen. Rightio. So what I want to do now is hear what your issue is, and we'll formulate a question. And I'm hoping you've got your cards there with you somewhere.
Yep, I do.
Good. Yep. And we'll together we'll make sure that you've got a very clear question, given whatever the issue is. So what's the story? And so then we'll work out what's a good question.
Well, I've been for quite many years now a freelance translator and editor, and although I enjoy it, I want to actually change fields, and I do lots of creative stuff, including making jewelry and things like that. And I was wondering, would that be a good move? I'd like to, switch from one field to the other, really.
This is actually a common sort of situation that I find when people come to me at the market for tarot readings, and it's sometimes like that. It's about, I'm not unhappy where I am, but I'd like to apply for something else, or I've got another idea. It also comes up with people wanting to move house. Forget the property thing, it's just about moving where they're going to live. What I do with this one is, well, there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can visualize yourself working as a jeweler or whatever you want, working in. Is there an umbrella thing you would like to, in a creative environment, or whatever, however you want to phrase it? You visualize yourself and you visualize yourself there, not whether you should go there, but see yourself there. Just suspend disbelief for a moment and just go, okay, I've been out in this other area for 6 months. What does my life look like? And you pick 3 cards. And then you do it again. What does my life look like? It's 6 months hence. What does my life look like if I just stay where I am, doing what I'm doing? And then you compare the 2 sets of cards, and you go,
Right.
Which one looks nicer? Which one looks best? That's one way I would do it. Anyone else want to come in with a suggestion about how Karen might ask the tarot for advice?
It sounds that maybe we're going more towards the question, what are the challenges?
Yes, I think so.
To go from one place to the other.
What challenges will I face? Do you want to make it, because it's very important to have the question very precise and to write it down probably. What challenges will I face? Will we say if I move, if I make this switch? Is if okay? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, rightio, we've got our question. What challenges will I face if I
make this switch?
And so pick your 3 cards. I mean, I usually fan them out and just pick them randomly, but whatever way you want to do it. And you're thinking the question all the time, saying it over and over to yourself.
Right.
And they are.
Ooh. First one, 8 of Swords.
Ooh, okay.
7 of Wands and the Devil.
Okay, so the question was the challenges. Right. Yes. Okay. This is groovy. Okay. That was the 8 of Swords and the 7 of Wands. This is the order, and then the Devil. Now, because the question was about challenges, it's not surprising that those cards have come out, because they're all challenging cards.
Yeah.
There's one challenge after another there.
I think the first thing that leaps out at me is maybe that I'm my own biggest challenge and I'm the one who's holding myself back.
Oh, look, you just said it in a nutshell, Karen. And how did you come to that conclusion? Because I couldn't have put it more succinctly myself.
It's funny, it leapt out at me, really.
Yeah, yeah. So let's look a bit more closely at how you might be your worst enemy, or the worst, how you yourself are the biggest challenge. What's coming out of the Eight of Swords?
Well, that it's not the swords holding me back. I can move if I want to.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got the freedom, to do it. That shouldn't hold me back.
Yeah, because the Eight of Swords is so often we get trapped by the way we're thinking or the way we're analysing a situation. We're blindfolded to the fact that, in fact, those swords are not in front of us. Yeah. They're on either side. Oh, I'm assuming you're looking at the Rider-Waite images as well.
Kind of. It's the Gilded Tarot.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, well, I'm looking at the Rider-Waite. You can certainly free yourself. So you're being trapped by the way you're thinking about it. You're holding yourself back. Yeah.
Yes.
And the Seven of Wands. I love that Seven of Wands card. I'm looking at the Rider-Waite image. How's that represented in the challenges you're facing?
Somehow, yes, it looks like there are outside things that could stop me, but the impression is, okay, I can still go through it, there's no reason why not.
Yeah, because the Seven of Wands in the Rider-Waite deck, you've got a guy, when you look at it, the perspective's all weird because he looks like he's actually straddling a river. He's up on this hill, and and the interesting thing about him is he's got a boot on one foot and a slipper on the other. There's nothing accidental about the way Pamela Coleman Smith drew any of those cards.
Yeah.
And so he's sort of standing up high, and there are these 6 wands that you see in the foreground, and he's holding this one that's, like it's sort of like, I'm up here, I'm on top of everything. But he's fighting off other people or other ideas. And I often see this card, particularly coupled with that Eight of Swords, as it's you fighting the naysaying in your own head, that those 6 wands that are appearing to want to get the upper hand, and you're standing up there going, no, you can't come. It's you needing to fight all the naysaying or the doubts. You have to stand your ground against your own doubts and your own way of thinking. And of course then the devil, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello.
I'm chaining myself.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of chaining going on in this set of cards.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah, the devil. Because again, I often say to people that the Eight of Swords is a minor arcana version of the devil, because it's all about not realising that you've got free will and you can move.
Exactly.
So that was a really clear...
That was a shout from the universe, wasn't it?
It was. But it came because we spent some time working out the question. Once it's phrased clearly, then your higher self has got something to work with.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So take a photo.
Will do.
Get the journal out.
Well, I've got a sort of a similar one in that I have a proper job.
A proper job, a 9-to-5 job. Yep.
Which pays the bills. But obviously, I'd really love to move into the astrology and the tarot, and work at what I love rather than what I have to pay the bills. And I'm not sure whether my question would be similar or...
how about what steps do I need to take?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, what steps do I need to take to move.
Yeah.
And let's put a time frame on this, because we could be talking 20 years here. So let's.
I'm not sure I've got 20 years left, but yeah.
What steps do I need to take to move from my current job into astrology and tarot work in the next 12 months?
Mm-hmm.
Are you game to ask that?
Yep, I will, because I really actually want an answer.
Okay.
So, and I'll pick 3 cards and we'll see how.
So what you're thinking? What steps do I need to take to move from my current job into tarot and astrology work in the next 12 months?
Okay, well, the first one that literally jumped out of the pack was the 10 of Cups.
10 of Cups. It literally jumped out. Wow.
It literally jumped out, so I had no choice with that one. The next one I've picked out is Death.
Death.
And then the third one is Temperance.
Wow. Okay. Well, they seem to be incredibly opposite. I mean, death. I mean, obviously it's a transition. Yeah.
Yeah.
And temperance. And that is wonderful, because in terms of the sequence of the major arcana, 13 and 14, death and temperance, follow one another. And in the Rachel Pollack pattern of the major arcana, they're the 2 cards at the end of the second row. So the fact that you've got the 2 cards at the end implies that you've already done all the soul searching that goes on before that. You know, the Hermit and the Justice and the Hangman. It implies that you've done all of that. What was the question again? What steps do I need to take?
To move from my current job into astrology tarot in the next 12 months.
Well, you've got 2 major arcana cards, but just looking at the overall look of do you see it as positive or, bright?
Look, I guess people often don't always look at the Death card as positive, but look, I really do, because for me, for the admin work that I've always done, to die a death is not going to be a sadness for me, because it is very much moving on. And also, like with the Chariot, I mean, I've always had a sort of a very grounded and structured and that type of job, but I'm quite psychic and that type of thing, which is something that I've not necessarily delved in or trusted a lot of the time, but it's the strength I have, if that makes sense.
Yes. Now, the other thing to always do when you've got your cards is to relate them directly to your question. So that was, what steps do I need to take? To me, the thing that jumps out at me is, you've got these 2 major arcana cards, which immediately just suggest that this is a change that is already taking place, because because you've got death sitting in the middle, I'm assuming you've got the 3, and riding straight towards temperance, which is the right, absolute, perfect formula for you, because it's a magic blend with the temperance card. To me, you may be blending 2 things. You might still be doing some administrative work while you're setting yourself up, but honestly, look, the 10 of Cups, it's the steps you need to take is to realize that you'll be blessed and happy as Larry. And I think it's an attitude. It's to go, wow, the step I need to take is to realize how beautiful and wonderful it will be. All I've got to do is make the change. What about Karen or Jackie? Do you want to make a comment on that? Because to me, in answer to her questions, is what steps do I need to take? The first card, and it leapt out of the pack at her. It wasn't even that she, she had no choice. Remember, she actually said that. I had no choice about this card. It just leapt out. So it was like, the card, your higher self is going, come on, you know, this is the happy rainbow. This is the end of the rainbow. This is happyville for you. And your family will be happy. You will be happy. You know, everyone will be happy.
Yeah, and look, I must admit, when I do that sort of work, I mean, as you know yourself, I mean, it's not really like work. Still have to work at it, but I just get so much enjoyment out of it.
That's right. And I think in terms of the question, what's the step, is that you've already started the transition, because the death card is about already having undertaken the transition, or you're beginning the process. You've done, and then if you think of the sequence of the major arcana, you've done all the hard yard thinking of the Hermit and the 3 cards sitting there in the middle, the Wheel of Fortune, the Justice and the Hangman. You've actually done all the hard soul searching stuff. It's now just get on and do it. And the reward is that it's the perfect thing for you to be doing.
Could I add something to that?
Yes.
The first card that struck me was actually, of course, the 10 of Cups is wonderful, but the Temperance, there was one word that jumped out at me, and that was the alchemy. So you're making it happen.
Yes.
You're doing that magic, and you're transitioning. Obviously, you're already in the process of doing all that magic, and through an alchemic, process, making it happen. Indeed.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
My issue is that my mother is very ill, or has been for the last 5 years now. She was told 5 years ago she had 6 to 9 months to live. She's still living, but she has periods where she gets very ill. And I didn't think she would be here at this time. And I have made plans to take a trip to England and Malta the end of February for 2 weeks. So I guess I'm struggling with
whether or not to go.
Yes.
Okay, so now this brings up a couple of things, because firstly, it's a question about someone else, and that's always a tricky issue. You have to have a question relating to yourself, which of course is sort of where you're heading anyway. What's the best thing for me to do?
Right. What can I do to feel better about taking the trip?
Yeah.
February 25th through March 11th.
Yeah. What can I do to feel better about? Okay.
I have the Queen of Pentacles, the Page of Cups, and the 3 of Wands.
What's your immediate feeling about that? Let's just go through my process. You look at those cards. What's the overall mood?
I think it's very positive.
Now, interestingly, you're talking about your mother, and you've got
I have the Queen of Pentacles, yes.
And a Page of Cups. You're the child, and there's your mother.
Yes.
Or
the reverse.
Yeah, and that what you're doing is that you're being the adult here.
Yeah.
And that you're grounded, and that your mom is actually the child because she is so frail.
Yes.
Let's go back to the question. The question is, what can I do to feel better?
Better.
So what can I do? I can realise that I'm the Queen of Pentacles, that I'm also the Page of Cups. I have a right to, to go off in search of my dreams, and that involves travel. Yeah.
And that involves what?
Travel, because the 3 of Wands is so much a card of looking out over the sea, and or we can see it as the way Jackie just said, that the Page of Cups is your mother, who's now frail and a child. But it's very important to go back to your question.
Right. What can I do to feel better?
What can I do to feel better? I can realise that I'm the Queen of Pentacles. And you could say, and that my mother is really the child now in the relationship.
Well, and I think the Page of Cups, I don't see that as the real negative card, if that is my mother.
No,
she's
not at
going
all.
to
No,
she's
not at
going
all.
to struggle,
Not at all.
you know.
No.
So I think that I feel better.
Definitely, because the Page of Cups is a happy card. Maybe she's going to be going through a period where she's feeling okay.
What a wonderful way to end the session, because I think that's what I'm about to do.
Thanks to all, and big thank you to Linda. It was really, really useful and well, just lovely to talk as well and just have that feedback and interaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I second that.
Yes, well, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. I just flicked through a couple of the other layouts that you'll find in the book. And of course, I can't not finish with a little bit of a plug for other things that I offer through Global Spiritual Studies. My Live and Learn the Tarot course, which now does blend tarot, Kabbalah and Druidry and life journeys, of course. And Jackie, I haven't got Shetland, but I do have the Isle of Skye there. That's the fairy pools over there on the left. Okay.
Beautiful place.
And there are other one-off type classes on there as well. And of course the Tarot Nava GPS for Life.